You know, there was that Netflix documentary. I didn't even watch it. I didn't want to watch it. I thought it was going to be dumb. And guess what? It most likely is because I get a lot of reaction type videos coming up on my thing talking about it. And you know what? Let's see what Dan's take on it is.
Netflix, which is about as misandrist, anti-male, and woke as any company I can think of, just dropped a so-called documentary about the Manosphere. And I'm going to say this as clearly and unequivocally as possible. This is not a documentary.
Nope.
This is a narrative-driven hit piece designed to frame men as a problem and sell that framing as the truth.
I mean, even the guy that was the documentary filmer or whatever, the creator, looks like a soy boy type man that just wants to throw men under the bus.
If that sounds harsh, good. It's supposed to. Because by the end of this, we're going to see exactly why. That's not an opinion, it's a conclusion. So as I said, Netflix just released the latest show in a long list of misandrist ones, and this one is called Manosphere. It follows last year's hit piece entitled Adolescence, which I've detailed in a prior video, and which has now gone on to be used in public schools in the UK to indoctrinate, I meant teach the girl students to fear the boys and the boys to hate themselves. Even though that one was a complete work of fiction, much like this one is. It has nonetheless led to the implementation of policies in the UK schools that are, to say the least, about as anti-male, anti-boy, and glaringly sexist as I've ever seen.
It gets kind of sad. It's sad to be a young man nowadays, just with all of these things going against you. Like all of media, all of society says you're the problem constantly. Unless they get a hold of men like us or, you know, these types of channels, what are they going to do? They're probably going to wallow in their own misery, because what else can you do if you just get blamed for everything? Like most men, I don't think ever have the capacity to overlook how much blame is being put on them. They can't see past it, that it's systemic type thing and it's not truly their fault. It's a narrative that society wants to push against men.
But I digress. Let's turn our attention to Manosphere, which claims to be a documentary, but is anything but. So I guess it would be prudent to start with what a documentary is supposed to be, what it's supposed to do. Well, a real documentary informs and educates. It presents facts, not assumptions. It shows multiple perspectives, including the uncomfortable ones.
Correct.
Most of all, it has...
I mean, well, when you watch Planet Earth, you always see one escape, but then you always see the one that doesn't escape.
any credibility whatsoever, it challenges its own assumptions. Bottom line, a quality documentary helps you understand a topic, not just feel something about it. But this piece of trash doesn't do any of that. No, what it does is tells you what to think, and then builds a carefully crafted and edited story to make sure you get there. There's a word for that, but we'll get to it.
It's gonna call
Now,
it grooming.
let's start with the first trick, which is one
Propaganda?
Netflix has used many times in the past when it comes to societal issues. They take this massive, messy, complicated space online and slap one label on it. In this case, the Manosphere. Now, everything gets thrown into that bucket. Men's self-improvement content, in the bucket. Dating advice for men, in the bucket. Guys talking about their struggles and issues, raging in anger and venting about their sad, lonely incel lives, as Netflix calls it. Yeah, you guessed it, in the bucket. And then they cherry pick the worst, most extreme voices they can.
They really did, right? When you look at the people that they picked, freaking Myron Gaines, Tiki Taki, and whatever the other few people are, that Joseph, whatever guy. Just like, damn, you guys chose like the douchiest of douches in a sense that just act so douchey.
Find and present that as the norm, as the whole. No nuance, no differentiation. No, they just lump everyone and everything about the subject into that one bucket, as I said earlier. And then they stick that label on, hoping it, well, sticks. That's like walking into a gym, finding the one guy doing some exercise completely wrong and about to hurt himself, and then making a documentary about it called Why Fitness is Dangerous. It's not analysis. It's certainly not journalism.
Again, like I don't hate on Fresh and Fit and all the other creators that are kind of more on the extreme side, but I feel like yes, they are more on the extreme side. A lot of their advice is very, you know, hold the line, or very, you can't cross lines, like you can't really think of nuance too much because they're so about this. But again, life is a lot of nuance. There's so much more nuance than there is, to me, generalization. But generalizations are true. That's what makes them generalizations.
It's framing, it's narrative, it's manipulation. And here's where it gets interesting, because they don't actually have to lie. No, they just have to control what you see, and boy do they. It's why throughout the show they chose to use selective clips, out of context sound bites, dramatic music, and of course all the emotional interviews they could find. It's a tried and true propaganda technique straight out of the Dr. Gobble's handbook that was used to convince an entire country to support a Holocaust. Everything is designed and carefully crafted to guide your reaction. Not your thinking, your reaction. I mean, seriously, if your argument needs a...
Again, I didn't watch it because I think about wanting to watch something like that. It just doesn't make sense to me because of the people they cover. The four major people that they covered, I don't really watch them that much, nor do I really fully subscribe to everything they say. So it's kind of hard for me to care to watch it.
Soundtrack to work, it's not that strong. And once you see that trick, well, you can't unsee it. So let's talk a bit about some things they conveniently left out of their little documentary. Let's talk about what's missing, because this is where the mask really slips. You cannot claim to explain men, their thoughts, their behaviors, their emotions, while at the same time completely ignoring what's happening to them. Yet, that's exactly what this show does. We all know the statistics. Men make up roughly 75 to 80% of all suicides, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Over 90% of workplace deaths are men. Boys are falling behind in school. Men are dropping out, checking out, and quietly disappearing from space.
I mean, it took away the best way that men used to learn, young boys used to learn. Shop. With their hands, fiddling with things and screwing up and then putting it back together.
Places they used to occupy, and they're sharing their struggles in relationships, the workplace, and throughout society. And what does this documentary have to say about all that?
Misogyny.
Well, nothing. Literally nothing. Not a single second of caring, concern, or kindness about any of them. Now tell me, if you're making a documentary about men, how do you leave all of that out? You don't do that by accident. It's done knowingly, deliberately, and with an agenda. And that's not incomplete. It's just plain intentional. We all know how every fairy tale needs a villain. Every cult even more so.
I guess we're the villains of everybody's fairy tale.
And in this one, as well as the cult of feminism, which is in the end what actually created this show, that villain is men. All men. Hell, even young boys aren't exempt. More specifically, they're targeting frustrated men. Frustrated men who have chosen to share their pain, share their struggles, share their misery, only to have it weaponized against them.
Again, the sad thing is, share your feelings. Men need to use their feel more, need to, tap into their emotions. Anger is an emotion. Bitterness is somewhat of an emotion. Men are quite angry and bitter about how society is being right now when it comes to us.
Because that's easy. It's clean. It's clickable. It's profitable.
Sure.
Showing a man rebuilding his life isn't going to trend. Showing a man growing and getting stronger won't either. But labeling it all as a dangerous, misogynistic male movement, well, that's going to get views. It's going to get headlines, and it's going to get people talking.
I mean, it's true. I have to use salacious headlines all the time for you guys to watch just because it just pulls in the audience. Who wants to watch person do something bad? Like, it's just not that great.
Most of all, it's going to rake in the profit. Suddenly, you're not informing the audience anymore. You're simply selling them a story, a piece of fiction disguised as a documentary. All to generate discord and, oh yeah, make a few bucks while you're at it. Now, let's talk about how they use guilt by association, which is one of the oldest tricks in the propaganda book. One that is used to great success in this phony documentary. One where they chose to show a few of the most extreme examples you can find, and then quietly suggest that everyone else is connected to it. You don't have to say it outright. In fact, they go to great lengths not to say it outright. No, they just let the audience feel it. Thus, people like me or my friend Lindsay, aka Squirrely Girl, or Sarah Eaton, or Ryan from The Unmarried Father, or a host of others like us I could name.
Tell you the truth, I enjoy Dan and enjoy like the older gentlemen's takes. I think they have so much to share with us and so much experience. I've always been a proponent of respecting elders, but there's something above that. Elders have something that you don't have. Life experience. That's exactly what they have. And they've gone through a good chunk of it.
Are all lumped together with the Tates, the Myron Gaines, the Harrison Sullivans, and the Ed Matthews of the world. They want the audience to conclude that we're all the same. So then it's okay to view us as women haters and misogyny personified.
Yep.
Except,
I get called the Cambodian Andrew Tate all the time. Like, I literally get called that a lot. And I don't really take offense to it in a sense. I was like, sure, I guess. I mean, whatever.
they're not. And we're not. Look, I've long been critical of many of the men they chose to feature. Mostly because I don't agree with a lot of what they have to say.
Agreed. I am with Dan on this. Again, I'm probably an old school soul or old soul, what you would say. But I was raised very traditional, very conservative with my own family. I don't know what else to say because I don't fully agree with everything they say. It's not that they're wrong. That's the other side of it. I don't think they're wrong either. I just don't agree with the methods that they go about it.
Yet this so-called documentary makes no differentiation between me, them, or really anyone who speaks out on the issues that men and boys face. It's like blaming every guy who lifts weights for that one guy on steroids who's running around punching holes in the wall. That's exactly what they're trying to do. It's not just lazy, it's downright dishonest. And make no mistake, it's deliberate. Unless we not say it, it's effective, which is exactly why they're doing it. And let's talk about something they avoid at all costs in this so-called documentary. The questions they don't even mention or bring up, such as, why does this space even exist? Why are so many men frustrated? Why are men walking away? Why are
these people have so many followers? That's also something you should be thinking about. Like, if these men at these extremes have these many people following them, these many young men following them, they must tap into these young men in some way that nowhere else is.
They angry? Why are they done? Why are men having struggles at all? Well, I'll answer that for you. They don't because they don't want anyone thinking about it. Because if you do answer those honestly, well, then you don't have a clean villain anymore. No, you've got complexity, you've got nuance, you've got a discussion about the realities of the world that men face. You've got some uncomfortable truths, and we can't have any of that, can we? We can't have anyone knowing anything about the misandry, toxicity, and hate that men face from women every single day. We can't discuss the system.
Again, you can be just a regular man walking there as a regular man, and you get hate. That is so crazy. That men experience hate so much that we're so used to it that we don't even understand that it's disrespect sometimes. That's how deeply ingrained all of this is into men now.
Systems, the culture, the societal incentives designed to target men and cast them in a negative light, or really anything being brought up that doesn't fit neatly into the Netflix narrative. So instead, they'll show you the smoke and pretend the fire doesn't matter or even exists. And I'd be remiss not to point out another little thing they conveniently forgot to put in the documentary. And this one gets real interesting because they spend all this time digging through the internet looking for the worst examples of men to build their narrative, yet somehow they never seem to find the femosphere. Never seem to find a single one of all those feminist women's groups out there, which literally outnumber the so-called men ones by thousands, if not millions.
Well, I mean, they're more public about it, right? They get to be on Reddit. They get to be on mass media, where men, as soon as we start talking about the things we have an issue with, it doesn't end up well for that platform, or that platform doesn't take care of us that well in a sense.
At all. You know, those millions upon millions of women in online groups, forums, and comment sections openly bashing men, mocking men, generalizing men, calling them useless, calling them trash, celebrating divorce wins like
should abort certain sex babies.
It's a championship parade. Strange how none of that made the final cut, didn't even get mentioned. Strange how they didn't make the connection. Gee, I wonder why that is. Now, are they ignorant, blind, stupid? Or do they know it exists, yet chose to hide its existence lest it counter the narrative they're trying to sell? And before someone says it, yes, there are toxic men that exist online. We've already talked about it. But if you're going to shine a spotlight on one side and completely ignore the other, well, that's not awareness. That's pure, raging, toxic, hate-filled agenda. Because if this was really about the truth, they'd show both. They'd show the similarities and the differences. If it was really about understanding, they'd be asking why toxicity exists on both sides. But they didn't do any of that, because showing both sides kills their narrative, kills their story, kills the whole men are bad and women good narrative. Again, proving beyond any doubt this so-called documentary wasn't built to inform you, it was built to steer you.
It makes total sense. Again, it looked like propaganda to me. The way, it's Netflix. It's just such a liberal company making such liberal videos and movies. Talking about the manosphere? Yeah, I don't see it being in a good way, or even in a just way.
Let's get real for a second. There are toxic male voices online.
Correct.
More than a few of them.
Sure.
Almost all of which I've criticized more than once. There are guys out there saying dumb, harmful things.
Sure.
There's even women like Pearl out there trying to make a buck by inciting rage in comments by saying insane things like women shouldn't be able to vote. But the fact is, nobody serious about addressing the issues men and boys face, like say, oh, I don't know, me, is defending what they say or do. Fact, we deplore it because it takes away from our message. But when you take the worst 1% and present it like it represents the whole, well...
But again, that's how women see men. Women see only the top 1% and how they treat women and how they treat the world. And that's how they think all men are. So it's not far-fetched that it's working to such a degree, because women already believe these things in a sense anyways.
Well, you're not exposing a problem, you're creating one. You are one. So let's wrap this up and put it all together. Manosphere is no more a documentary than the moon is made of cheese. It's hate, toxicity, and blatant sexism wrapped up in a pretty bow to make it palatable. The fact is, if you selectively represent any group and deliberately choose to ignore critical data, not to mention refuse to show the opposing views, all to emotionally manipulate the audience and frame the conclusion from the start, well, we have to ask, at what point does that stop being a documentary and start being propaganda?
Again, I grew up watching normal TV. I don't really know what propaganda is. As I grow up now, I still don't fully know what propaganda is in a sense of if I'm watching it or not. Because, again, I'm a little simple minded when it comes to these things. If I watch something, I enjoy it. Do I take everything and analyze every little thing that's going on? No. So I can see if I'm like that, I can see more people being like me and not doing these things, so I can see it working very well. That's the thing about propaganda, right? You don't know. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you guys next time. Ciao.